Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I'm back with another Shadow Talk, and this is episode number 161. And for today, I have a rather sobering and serious topic. Not really serious. I mean, as serious as tabletop RPG topics can be, I suppose. But I do want to talk about how we can, do a better job of popularizing the Schwalb Entertainment games, particularly Shadow of the Demon Lord and Shadow of the Weird Wizard. Although I don't want to forget the other games of um, Post Apocalyptic and Godless, as well as When the Wolf Comes. And so, anyway, that's going to be the main topic. But before we get into that, we have new stuff, as we usually do, to look at. So let's take a look at the Schwalb Entertainment site and let's look at the latest releases page. And we can start backwards, I think, because I believe the last thing that we talked about was the Evil Relics Bronze Man. Since then, a few more things have come out, including Survival of the Fittest, revised for the 10th anniversary. Now, it's hard to believe the Shadow of the Demon Lord's been out for 10 years, but it has. And Survival of the Fittest was one of the first, if not the first, adventure that came out for the game. And it's fitting that it has been revised and updated for Shadow of the Demon Lord. Um, and I did take a look at it when I received it, and it was not much different. There were a couple things that were different. I think a couple of the creatures that were included were a little bit different, but for the most part, it's still Survival of the Fittest. If you've played the game or if you've played the adventure, I liked it a lot. It was a good introductory adventure. I did have a problem with the hex crawl nature of it, just because, in my experience, rolling randomly in hexes um, just caused me to delay the actual getting to the interesting stuff in my game, and that was a me problem. I should have just directed the flow of the adventure a little bit more directly rather than going randomly. But at any rate, Survival of the Fittest is pretty good. So if you haven't picked it up, please do so. I believe you can get it on Drive-Thru RPG. So that was the first thing. Stabbing at Evil's Heart, an expert adventure for Weird Wizard. Let's see. The settlements fell silent after the Fomorian attack. Every soul carried into the dreaded Dark Wood. Now a brave company must defy the ancient warnings and plunge into the forest's heart to bring the lost home, unaware of deeper darkness that awaits. All right, sounds like a interesting adventure. This is an expert tier, so should be pretty challenging. All right, so this is probably over. There was a folk horror bundle, but this was from back in May the 1st, so I'm not sure if that is even still available. So let's just go ahead and move on. And looking here, we've got Book of Salvation, Fairy Friends. This supplement offers new hope for characters weighed down by darkness in the world and hopefully a chance to save it. Not sure I've seen that one. I don't think I have not reviewed it, but gone over it yet. But anyway, that's available. What else do we have here? Blight Scars, The Black Door, a Black Star supplement. The Black Door, a gateway to pure evil. Things so monstrous that they're too evil for the men of Gog. What lies beyond its threshold is so powerful that even nearby evil permeates its surroundings. Do you dare open it? Sounds interesting. Alrighty, what else do we have? Dungeon of the Damned, Crypt of the Dead Dreamer. Dungeon of the Damned, Crypt of the Dead Dreamer presents a new and lethal dungeon for expert characters as part of a series or one-shot. Now, Dungeon of the Damned is a multi-tiered adventure, I believe, and I think it's kind of billed as a mega dungeon. Now, I've been picking these up, but I have not been reading them as of yet. So I don't know I can't really say if it's good or not, but here's the latest installment. So, if you've been picking them up, then you got a new one to go out there and grab. Doom comes to Driftwood, an expert adventure for Weird Wizard. Normally, the people of Driftwood welcome shipwrecks, as the cargo often brings a windfall, but this time something far more sinister has washed ashore, coinciding with the arrival of zealous priests who distract the villagers from a terrifying hidden danger. All right, expert tier. Then we have Honor in Life, Glory in Death. A setting expansion for Shadow the Weird Wizard. Step into the realm of fairy and for... No, 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 no. That is incorrect, my friend. This is not the fairy setting. That is the wrong information there, Schwalb Entertainment. You need to get that updated. Anyway, this is the Dwarven supplement. So if you dig dwarves like I do, then Honor in Life, Glory in Death is a must-have. So go grab it. All right, so those are all the new releases for Shadow of the Demon Lord and Shadow of the Weird Wizard. All right, so let's talk now about the main topic, which is popularizing the Schwalb Entertainment games. All right, so I don't really have anything to show you for this, so I'm just going to leave up the Schwalb Entertainment site. In fact, I'll just go to the main page here. All right. So, what do I mean by popularizing the Schwalb Entertainment games? Well, I don't think it is unfair to say that of all of the TTRPGs that are popular right now out there, I don't think the Shadow of the Weird Wizard or the Shadow of the Demon Lord or Punk Apocalyptic for that matter are in the top 10. I hope they're in the top 10, but I don't think they are. And I really don't understand why, because I think these are great games. Now, let's talk a little bit about why that might be. So, what is popular right now? What has come out recently? Well, you've had the recent update of Dungeons and Dragons, the 2024/2025 update. As far as I can tell, that's not really causing a lot of buzz. At least not a lot of positive buzz. There's definitely some negative buzz around it. But if you pay attention to any of the D&D news out there, it just seems like, or even just TTRPG news out there, it just seems like people are not too happy with Wizards of the Coast these days. And I think that's reflecting in the interest level that is currently, I guess, not really there for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, let's put that in perspective, though. Dungeons and Dragons is the most popular role-playing game in the world by far. Like it or not, it is number one, number one. So, it is definitely the most played fantasy TTRPG out there, and probably, I dare say, the most popular RPG, period, out of all the genres. Now, be that as it is, that means that all the attention, 99% of the attention, and I just made a number up, but a huge portion of the attention is going to be on Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that's just the way it is, like it or not. TTRPGs are a niche, a niche hobby anyway. And, as you get into the various different TTRPGs, it becomes even slimmer and slimmer, smaller and smaller niches. So, to say that Dungeons and Dragons is number one basically tells you right there that most people out there that play RPGs or TTRPGs play D&D. And there's nothing wrong with that. D&D is a fine game. I personally don't like the current version of D&D, but As far as role-playing games go, it's playable. It's good. You can have fun with it. It's great. Lots of people do. Lots of people are having a good time with D&D 2024, 2014, 4E, 3.5E, and so on and so forth. So that is obviously going to be getting the lion's share of attention online and elsewhere, such as, wherever games are played in your local game shop or in, um, conventions or online or whatever the case may be. In fact, if you look at the results that let's see, what's it called? Roll20 produces periodically. I think they produce it once a quarter. Dungeons and Dragons is by far the most popular game played on that platform. So I think it's fair to say that D&D will continue to be number one, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, does that mean there's not room for other games? No, of course not. There are plenty of other games that have a pretty big following. Pathfinder 2 has always been, well, at least since for the last 10 years or so, maybe even longer than that. It's always, it's been a big contender. Um, but lately, it just seems like most of the attention that I've seen anyway, online and in various places, is around D&D. And then when you get past that, you start getting into other things that are talked about, such as, and I'm talking about other games. And when I see these other games being talked about, whether it's online or wherever, um, I never see any of the Schwalb games being discussed, or very rarely do I see or hear anything from Schwalb Entertainment being discussed, let alone being reviewed or being played or just having generalized discussions about rules or about the lore or things like that, like you do for D&D. There are tons of D&D channels out there, tons of people talking about D&D on YouTube and Twitch, lots of actual play games, and so you've got all that, and then even when you get past that, there are other games that are getting that kind of attention. Maybe not as much, but you still see and hear about in the news, in the TTRPG world news, these other games, whether that be games like Shadow Dark or um, Dungeon Crawl Classics, things like that. So, what does this mean? What do we have to do to break into the world of popularity when it comes to TTRPGs? We don't want to be the last kid picked in recess, right? We definitely want to be a contender. And first of all, let me back up here. I don't work for Schwalb Entertainment. I have nothing, no affiliations other than the fact that I play the games. And I was a backer of both or all three. Well, I've been backer of all of the Schwalb Entertainment Kickstarters so far. So definitely a big fan of the Schwalb Entertainment games, right? Even though I've only seriously played Shadow the Demon Lord and now Shadow the Weird Wizard, I'm still a fan of everything that Schwalb Entertainment has put out to date. But I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting any type of endorsement from them or any. Schwalb doesn't even know I exist. So that's my disclaimer, and I'm sticking with it. So having said that, um, I still want to see this game succeed. I want to see these games become more popular, become more mainstream than they currently are. Now, how do we do that? That's $1 million question, right? There's a bajillion games out there to compete with. Let's just start with the 5e and 5e clones. So you got D&D 5e 2024 and 2014. Okay, so again, that's the biggest piece of the pie. Then you have all the D&D clones. So, or the 5e clones. So you've got um, Tales of the Valiant. You've got the advanced, what is it? The advanced 5e. Um, Shoot, I forget what it's called. Anyway, then you have Pathfinder's not a 5e clone, but it's another very close competitor. But let's see, I thought there was a third 5e clone, but I'm not thinking of it. So anyway, so then you got Pathfinder, then you got those are the games that are similar enough to D&D 5e that I would kind of categorize them together. And then of course you have all the other D&D games, which I've mentioned, all the older versions of D&D, but then you got the older clones. So that would include games like Shadow Dark, which is hugely popular. Um, then you've got Dungeon Crawl Classics. Again, very strong following with Dungeon Crawl Classics. Then you have, what's it called? The Dungeon, no, the Old School Essentials. That's what I'm thinking of. Old School Essentials. Um, and then there's just a ton of other retro clones that are out there. Um, and so that continues to subdivide the community at large. But I think the ones that I mentioned are the ones that are getting the lion's share of attention. So if you do a search for TTRPGs in YouTube, for example, you're going to see D&D is going to be by far the most, but you're going to also see Dungeon Crawl Classic videos. You're going to see videos about Shadow Dark out there, and various others, Call of Cthulhu and things like that. But as far as fantasy RPGs go, you have to actually do a search for the Schwalb Entertainment games if you want to get any content to come up. And right now I'm just talking about like video content, like YouTube or Twitch. So obviously we have some work to do. As far as I know, I'm the only YouTuber, and I'm not even a YouTuber. I'm just a guy in a basement that makes videos about the Schwalb Entertainment games because I like them. I don't get monetized. I don't make money off of it. I just do it for shits and grins, and because I like the games and I want to see them do better. I've been doing this probably, I don't know, since 2018, 2019 or something like that, I think. And I never went into this with the intent of doing it as a source of income. Um, that would be nice, obviously getting a little bit of cash on the side would be great, but I don't have what it takes to put the work into making this a YouTube channel that is a significant or a serious source of income. So I don't try to get followers. I don't try to get monetized or anything like that because I'm not a YouTuber. I've got a full-time job, and so that's where I make my living, not doing the YouTube thing. However, other YouTubers do YouTube for a living, or at least it's a significant portion of their income. And so they're going to focus on things that people are watching, and that is D&D content for the most part. Now there are some that go beyond D&D, and since the whole Wizards of the Coast hate on has been going for the last couple of years, more and more of these channels are starting to get kind of distance themselves from D&D and focus on 5e rather than Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons. So let me just name a couple of them here. Sly Flourish is a channel that I watch on occasion. The Lazy DM podcast, I think, is what he calls it, and he has always been a D&D guy, right? So he first started with 4e, and then he converted to 5e when it came out, and he's been pretty much a 5e guy since then. mostly, predominantly Dungeons and Dragons 5e, but then here recently, within the last few years, he's been again distancing himself from Dungeons and Dragons as Wizards of the Coast do more and more stupid shit, and he has been focusing more on other 5e type games. But I will give Sly Flourish some credit. He does acknowledge other games as they come out, and he does give them some time on his videocast, podcast, whatever, his YouTube channel. He is probably one of the only podcasters that I view, that I have seen, that mentions the Schwalb Entertainment games when they come out. And he does so in a positive way. So he's a fan of Robert Schwalb, and he has mentioned Shadow the Demon Lord. In fact, he has played a Shadow the Demon Lord campaign, or he's run one, and he's talked about it on his channel. He wants to run a Shadow the Weird Wizard campaign, and he's planning on doing so when he wraps up one of his current ongoing games. So Sly Flourish does talk about Shadow the Demon Lord. Mastering Dungeons is another big podcast, which is a D&D, pretty much a D&D focused podcast, and I would say probably the majority of that is Wizards of the Coast D&D. But they do talk about other game systems every once in a while. They have brought on Robert Schwalb, and of course they've talked about the Schwalb games, predominantly Shadow the Demon Lord and Shadow the Weird Wizard. So I'll give Sean Merwin and Teos Abadia credit as well for at least touching on the Schwalb Entertainment games on their channels. Now, when you start going beyond that, very, very little. I would say some of the more popular YouTube channels that I view and that I'm aware of and familiar with, Professor Dungeon Master, which I believe his channel is called Dungeon Craft. He may have mentioned Shadow the Demon Lord once or twice, I believe, on his channel, but he's not really done any type of serious discussion about the game. So I don't get the impression that he really follows Schwalb Entertainment very closely, if at all. Bob the World Builder. Can't say I've ever heard him talk about any of the Schwalb games. Now, I could be wrong there. Because I honestly haven't watched all of Bob the World Builder's videos, and so I don't know if he even plays or has played or knows about the Schwalb Entertainment games. But he seems to be pretty well versed, although he is mostly, I think, a D&D guy. But I do hear him talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics as well, and he has mentioned a few other games. But I don't think he has done a deep dive or even touched on or mentioned any of the Schwalb games. Jenny D, I got to be honest with you, don't watch her channel. I have kind of perused a couple of other channels that talk about her channels. So I don't know if she has done any type of mentioning of the Schwalb Entertainment games, but I get the strong impression that she is also a pretty much a D&D 5e type person, and sticks to that for the most part. And those are the majority of the D&D podcasts that I've heard of or that I personally watch. So there's not really a whole lot out there. And if you do a YouTube search for Shadow of the Demon Lord or Shadow of the Weird Wizard, you're not going to really come up with much. You're going to find a few actual plays, and there have been a few for Shadow of the Demon Lord, and for currently Shadow of the Weird Wizard. There is one going on right now by a group or a channel called Dungeon Musings. I believe they're on their 5th session of Shadow of the Weird Wizard. So if you're interested in seeing somebody playing Shadow of the Weird Wizard, you actually have a group that is doing it on YouTube right now, Dungeon Musings. So check that out. But beyond that, again, you're not going to find a lot of content for Shadow of the Demon Lord or Shadow of the Weird Wizard, let alone anything for the other Schwalb Entertainment games, such as, excuse me, Punk Apocalyptic. That's probably because you can't say the damn word. I can't say the damn word, and it's probably again a me problem. Um, you're not going to find anything on, or very little on When the Wolf Comes. Probably just stuff talking about the Kickstarter when it happened a couple years back. You'll find virtually nothing on Godless, which was kind of a small game that Schwalb put out shortly after Demon Lord came out. It was like a precursor to Punk Apocalyptic, I think. It is both in the same genre of a kind of like a Mad Max type setting, um, but separate games. Um, and so, again, you're just not going to find a whole lot of stuff out there. And as far as channels dedicated to Schwalb Entertainment games, as far as I know, I'm the only one. And I wish that wasn't the case because I actually, truth be told, I started this channel hoping that somebody else would say, man, that guy sucks. I can do better than him and do it better podcast. Or do a better YouTube channel. And I still challenge anybody out there to do that. Please, please show me up. Please make better Schwalb Entertainment games videos. I would watch them. Seriously, I look for this shit and I can't find any, so I have to make my own, and I suck. So if you have any desire to be a YouTuber, this is fresh territory. This is good stuff here that nobody else except for this idiot is touching on. So the challenge, the gauntlet is thrown. The challenge is there. Take it, run with it. Please do a better job than me because I am doing a terrible job. Clearly, since I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, 6 or 7 years, 7 or 8. I don't know. I don't know how many years I've been doing this, but anyway. Clearly, I'm not getting the message across. So other people need to step in and help to popularize this. And how will that happen? Well, I think there's several ways that we can make this game popular, or at least more popular than it currently is. So YouTube is a huge format for conveying information. I think if we had more YouTube channels that were focused on the Schwalb Entertainment games, that would be a good step forward. I think that another thing is the convention circuit out there. So I don't go to conventions. I've only been to a couple. And at one of them, I did run a couple of Schwalb Entertainment games. Well, actually, I just ran Shadow of the Demon Lord. This was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And it was for a local convention, so it wasn't a big one like Gen Con or Gary Con or Winter Fantasy or anything like that. So it was just a local small convention here in Kansas City. And so, I ran a game, and I think the people that played had fun, but I also did a Roll20 Con online and ran a Demon Lord game there as well. And again, I think it went fine, but every time I see conventions being advertised, whether they're online conventions or whether they are actual in-person conventions, I never, ever, ever see a Schwalb Entertainment game offered. Nobody is running games from Schwalb Entertainment at these conventions. And I might go to one if I actually saw a Shadow of the Demon Lord game or a Shadow of Weird Wizard game being offered. I would love to play those games if I could find somebody that was running them. But yeah, that's the problem. Nobody's running these games because everybody's running D&D. 99% of the games that are role-playing games that are being run at these conventions that I look at are D&D games. And the bigger conventions, you have other choices, of course, Gen Con and things like that. But even, well, I'll have to go and check Gen Con this year. I don't know. I haven't checked the game offerings there, but even then, I don't recall seeing any Schwalb games being offered. I would love to play a punk apocalyptic game, even though I can't say the damn word. I would love to play a When the Wolf Comes game. I would love to play a Godless game. And I would probably shit myself if I saw that on a events list for a convention, but I don't, and that is a problem. So I think for those of you people out there that go to conventions and run games at conventions, if you're running 4 games and all 4 of them are D&D or whatever, then make one of them a Schwab game. Make it a Shadow of the Demon Lord game, or make it a punk apocalyptic game. Do something to get this game out in front of people. Get them to play it. Get them to see how it's similar enough to D&D that you get the same experience, but it is different enough that it is showing them that there are other options out there for your fantasy RPGs that aren't that different than Dungeons and Dragons. And I think a lot of people have the fear of jumping from D&D to another game because fear of the unknown. They don't know what to expect. And if they can see these games displayed, if they can see people running them and see people having fun with them, then I think we would probably get more people involved in this game, more people interested in purchasing the books and building groups and running these games. Okay, so that is, that's the convention circuit. So we've talked about YouTube, we've talked about conventions. What else is there? Social media. So, talk about this stuff on social media. I'm guilty. I'm not a big social media guy. I do have a presence on X and a small presence on Facebook, which I hate. But I don't go into Reddit very much. I don't go into very much social media, and I don't talk about RPGs too much on social media. But a lot of people do, and I think that's a great place to get this stuff out there and get besides the channels that are specifically focused on these games, which of course is going to appeal to the people that are already in the community. If we want to grow this community, then we want to talk about these games outside of the community. So that means going to other channels and talking about these games, especially if you see somebody that is saying they're looking for an alternative to D&D, then that's your prime opportunity to jump in there and say, hey, guess what? There's a fantastic game you're not playing, and that is Shadow of the Weird Wizard. If you want a D&D-like experience, but better, Shadow of the Weird Wizard, go pick it up. So use social media to your advantage and try to get these games out there. What else is there? Let's see here. Hold on. I had this stuff written down somewhere. And obviously I have misplaced my notes, and I am helpless without my notes. So bear with me for just a second while I try to find Okay, sorry, this is boring. Here we go. Shadow talk template. Okay, so let's see, what were we talking about? YouTube, kind of social media. Okay, so, VTT support. Okay, so let's talk about virtual tabletop. So a lot of games are being played online these days. And I think that more and more games will be played online as people move, grow up, have families, and are unable to meet face to face. I actually have I have 2 regular games going on. One is face-to-face game, and one is an online game. My online game's been going for 10 years, maybe longer. And so it's with people that live near me. We could get together in person, but we're busy adults. My face-to-face game happens once a month, but my virtual game happens weekly. And so it's much easier for people to hop on their computers for 3 hours during a weeknight um, and play a regular game than it is to try to get a group of people together face to face in a location on a regular basis, at least for working adults. That's been my experience. And so, be that as it is, virtual tabletop support is hugely important for the support of any RPG. Now, we have support for Shadow the Demon Lord in Fantasy Grounds and Foundry, which is what I use, and in Roll20, although the support in Roll20 is very minimal. There's a character sheet with an NPC sheet, and that's basically it. However, for Shadow of the Weird Wizard, Foundry is the only VTT that I'm aware of that has, significant support for that game. Roll20 has a character sheet and an NPC sheet, but that's it. You can't do a compendium. There's not, additional support for it. So Roll20, very minimal support. And then I don't know if Fantasy Grounds has caught up with Shadow of the Weird Wizard yet. I haven't seen anything for it. That doesn't mean that it's not available, but again, I don't use Fantasy Grounds, so I don't know if it currently has any level of support for Shadow of the Weird Wizard. If it does, it's very quiet about it because I haven't seen anything come across any of my feeds. So if you work with virtual tabletops, whether that is Roll20 or with Fantasy Grounds or with any other virtual tabletops that are out there, and I think there's plenty that are developing out there. Try to talk people into building support for the Schwalb Entertainment games. You're not going to find a punk apocalyptic character sheet built in any of the popular VTTs. You're not. You're not going to find Godless. You're not going to find when the wolf comes. We're lucky to have Shadow of the Demon Lord and Shadow of the Weird Wizard in the few VTTs that we currently have. But VTT support is huge, and I wish that Schwalb would, for future game releases, would factor in VTT support. And I know it's expensive. I get it. It's not cheap doing VTT support. And he's a small one-man show, basically, running Schwalb Entertainment with, a few people helping him. But I think it would be more useful and helpful for him to develop virtual tabletop support along with, just the books and the PDF material that he provides. So, I think all of these things would go a long way to help make Schwalb Entertainment games more popular. I'd like to think that I'm doing my part with these videos, but again, my influence is very small. I have, I think, 592 people subscribe to my channel, and a fraction of that actually watch my videos. So I think that I'm reaching a few people, but the people that I'm reaching are probably people that already play the game anyway. So this is not something that I can do on my own. This is something that I think is going to take the community to really be outspoken and go out there and really push this game as much as possible. I'm doing what I can, but I'm just an idiot with a microphone that does a shitty job on YouTube. So again, the challenge is out there. If any of you people can do a better job than me, please, here's the baton. Take it, run, go. All right, so that's all I got for today. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, as always. And if you want to know when my videos show up, then subscribe to the channel. it might help make it more visible. I don't know. I put tags out there for people that are searching for D&D alternatives, but I think that the key in YouTube is the more people you have subscribed, the more visible your videos become. So I don't know. Right now, it's just luck of the draw if people run across my channels. Okay, anyway, I'm out of here. Hail to the Demon Lord, and I will catch you guys next time.